What is going on, gunfighters? In this crazy time, with everything going on, in this economy, what are some, in my opinion, good, safe, wise gun purchases? Some best gun buys for value in this economy? That's what we're going to talk about today. Rifle, pistol, shotgun. Good gun buys in this economy. Welcome to Gunfighter Life, the podcast where we talk about guns, gunfighting, tactics, all manner of things today. Good gun buys. The right way, with God Almighty at the center, Judeo-Christian values and real-world first-hand experience. I am blessed to serve you today as host, Michael Milito. First and foremost, I am a Christian, a servant of God, and a follower of Jesus Christ. Yeshua. Also been blessed to be military, law enforcement, private contractor, competitive shooter, professional big game hunter, and guide. But mostly relevant today, I've been in the gun world, in the gun industry, been shooting since I was, as the saying goes, knee-high to a grasshopper. Started walking around with a gun when I was, 6 or 7. I've been around the gun market. I've been buying guns since, honestly, the statute of limitations is probably up. Younger than I could legally buy guns. I would have my mom go buy me guns when I saved up enough money from whatever jobs to buy guns. One of those really early guns I still have. And in fact, that model, or one of those kind of models, is going to be on today's good gun buys. So I've been in the gun market a long time. I've seen prices go up, and I generally know when I see a deal. And I've said many times on this show, I'm not a gun collector. I have been in the past, and I've done fairly well on that. But here's the thing. If you don't know, my wife and I live as neo-nomads, at least for the time being, trying to figure out where God wants us to be. But we are strangers and pilgrims on the earth. A big part of that was downsizing. The new kind of cool guy vernacular is living tiny. But pretty much everything we own, we fit mobily. Unless my mom has some stuff from when I grew up that I've forgotten about at the old house. Pretty much that's what we own, and we fit it in and move around. So I don't have a vast gun collection. I have my go-to guns, my go-to fighting rifles, handguns, shotguns. I have some specialty stuff like my go-to big game hunting rifles, my Alaska rifle as I'm now in Alaska, things like that. And I also have, I guess my one family heirloom would be my grandfather's really old, I believe at this point, well over 100-year-old double-barrel Fox shotgun, which I'm very humbled and blessed went to me. And I will still take that out and use it on fair weather occasions. But I'm not a gun collector. But I'd like to think that I have a decent idea. Nobody knows the future, right? Nobody knows what's going to happen with the economy. Who knows? Maybe inflation will go crazy the other way, and we'll have rapid deflation, and your purchasing power will be worth more next year than it is this year. I don't think that's likely, but I don't see the future. I don't want to be a false prophet. And I'm not telling you how you should spend your money. That would be irresponsible of me. What I'm telling you is if right now I had a bunch of extra money and I was thinking that the dollar was not going to hold its staying power, and I wanted to put that money into guns. If I wanted some good gun purchases, like what I thought were good values, good purchases in this economy, whether things stay relatively the same or dramatically get worse. And by the same, I mean whatever level of inflation we have now continues, or it dramatically gets worse, or the economy turns back into a barter economy. For the economy as it is now, what do I think are some good gun buys? That's what I'm talking about. If it were me and I had a bunch of extra money stacked up, and I was looking to put it into, precious metals, meaning blued steel and stainless steel, as far as firearms go, that kind of precious metal for the future. What guns would I be looking at? That's what we're talking about today. Now, the first gun is the one that got me thinking about this, and I want to do an entire podcast on this gun. I think it deserves one. But I'm holding off because although I'm well versed in many guns, I'm not the greatest resource when it comes to the SKS. I've shot them. I've mentioned before when I grew up, like dirt poor in the South, that was kind of the go-to poor man's redneck deer hunting rifle. They were super cheap, super affordable, under $100. They come in a good intermediate cartridge, and it's just kind of what people hunted deer with. Not because they were the best deer hunting rifle, but because they would certainly kill deer and they were cheap. I hear from, I don't like to pass on hearsay, so until I hear it from somebody else, I'll hold off on that. But the SKS is a phenomenal rifle. But there's been a lot of countries that imported them, China, Russia, other Eastern Bloc countries, and I don't know enough about them yet, I think, to put out a good episode. So I'm trying to learn, for you guys, more about the SKS, but I think it deserves its own episode. With that being said, the SKS is a phenomenal rifle. It would have been a better time to invest in them when you could get them for under $100. It would have been a good time to invest in them when you could get them for under $150. Those days are gone, and I don't see them coming back. However, I think that the SKS, even at current prices, is a phenomenal buy. My wife often has to remind me when I look at the price of something and I'm like, whoa, I don't want to pay that I'm thinking about pre-COVID prices. We don't live in a pre-COVID economy. We don't live in a pre-COVID world. And like my mom used to say, you can wish in one hand and crap in the other and see which one fills up first. Yeah, my mom actually used to tell me that. So we are in a post-COVID world. The prices are what they are. I don't ever see the price of an SKS going back to, $79. But even at current prices, I still think they're a phenomenal buy. Unlike what we would call an AK-47, which is not an actual AK-47. All right, when you get an AK-47 here in America, it's a civilian copy. The AK-47 was primarily, if you look at the selector switch, designed to be fired in full auto. It was designed, I believe, as a submachine gun replacement that would give you a little bit more range than an intermediate cartridge. And in that, guys, it's better than an SKS for sure. If you're talking about that role in full auto, yeah, the AK-47 for sure. But that's not what the SKS was designed to be. It was designed to be a really good intermediate cartridge infantryman's rifle in semi-auto. And you're getting lots of the time the exact military version built to military specifications, unlike the AK-47. Now, a legit AK-47, I really like them. I carried one in Iraq when, let's just say I've done some more outside the box stuff. And I carried an AK, and I like AKs. But not everything that looks like an AK that you buy here in the U.S. is built to that military AK quality, especially like a good military Russian-made AK. You can get those good Arsenal and stuff AKs, like a good, what I would consider up to par military quality AK. You can get them, but they're not cheap. And SKS, I still think at today's prices, because you're getting a good military quality rifle designed for the infantry, meant to run in semi-auto, so all its features and stuff are meant to run in semi-auto. It's a good all-around rifle, and although I don't think, listen to me, I'm not telling you to get rid of your AK and your AR and run an SKS. For a battlefield weapon, the AK and the AR kind of take the cake for that. But for a really awesome, well-rounded rifle, well-rounded, not battlefield rifle, but a good hunting rifle with good sights, great reliability, I think a good military SKS built to good, like you're getting an actual military SKS, I think is going to be more reliable than a poorly redone, poorly imported and pieced together AK-ish variant, because it's not a true AK. But a lot of the SKSs you get are true military hardware. Perhaps some of the last true military hardware guns that we can actually get. I think if you keep that in mind and the quality at which they were made with and the reliability that you get, and they're not inaccurate as far as what they are, for a Cold War era infantry rifle. And they're a good balance. They're a decent truck gun. They're a decent hunting gun. They're not better than, again, I'm not telling you to get rid of your go-to gun and get this, but I'm saying it's a good stand-in for all of these things. It's a good truck gun. You can certainly kill all kinds of stuff with it because people still hunt with them today. Again, when I was growing up, that was kind of the rifle. SKS is a good rifle, and here's the thing. It's in a really good cartridge, the 7.62x39. It is, in my opinion, the best intermediate cartridge. 5.56 has its advantages, certainly has its advantages in an AR-15. But if you're just looking at pure performance on actual combat ranges, I think that the 7.62x39 is a really amazing intermediate cartridge. And I think because it is so ubiquitous around the world, even though the super cheap military surplus has kind of dried up, the price per round, because of economy of scale, much like 9mm, it's a really affordable round. So unlike something that I didn't put on the list, like the 7.5 Swiss rifles, which are fine quality if you want one for investment and you're into like long range Cold War military rifle shooting, then it's a fine rifle. But if you want something to put money in that you can also buy ammo for affordably, I think the AK still wins that. I think the SKS still wins that, using that really common AK, SKS, and many other rifle round, the 7.62x39. I just did a search for it not too long ago. And I should mention, this is prices that I might give in this is, at the time of this recording, this is 9/6 in the year of our Lord 2023. Who knows what they'll be when you listen or when this comes out, but it was in the 30-ish some cents a round. That's pretty good for post-COVID prices. It's not the prices I remember from, days of yore, but again, wish in one hand and crap in the other. As far as center fire rifle rounds go, in today's market, it's pretty affordable. And I still think for the quality that you're getting, for the capability of that rifle, the SKS is a good purchase. I don't think there's going to be a lot of companies making new ones. Maybe there'll be another con block country that I'm not aware of that we just get a massive import of SKSs in. That may happen, so the prices may drop a little. But I have to imagine in the long term, eventually, those are going to dry up even more, and we're going to see the prices go up more and more. There was a time when you could get a, full matching M1 carbine for crazy cheap money. Go try find an all matching serial number M1 carbine today and see what that costs. Those are so high now, there's companies making brand new, M1 carbine kind of clones. But these have not reached that price yet. And I still think they're a good buy. And it's a good, capable rifle. And again, I want to do an entire episode on the SKS. I just, I don't know that much. I know about them from a shooting standpoint, but as far as like this country versus this country and this configuration versus the other configuration, I don't know as much. And I would like to know more before I do an episode, just being real with you guys. But the SKS I still think is a good buy. Here is another. I've seen recently several different versions of the SIG 226, 229 agency department trade-ins. If you don't know the history and the track record and the street cred of the SIG 226, 229, I'm not going to rehash that here, but it is legendary. I carried one. I carried a 229. This was back in the early aughts. I carried one in one of my roles as a law enforcement officer. I carry one today as one of my go-to carry guns. I one of my go-to with all the options, and I own Staccatos, I own STIs. One of my go-to carry guns is a Sig Legion 226 single action only. Again, I have seen many of these on the trade-in market, sub $500. Sub $500 for a 226, 229. These are, again, legendary in their reliability, in their performance, in their shootability, in their trigger pull. Now, it's a double single, so you're going to have to get used to that if you're not. And I'm not saying you need to get one of these for your go-to carry gun, but if you're looking for a good investment, I can't imagine that the prices on these are going to get much better. And here's why. Because not that long ago, many departments made the switch from like the SIG 226, 229, the HK USPs, which were pretty common, to pretty much the vast majority went to polymer striker fire. Glocks and things like a Glock. Many departments went to that. The 320, the Glocks. So you're seeing all these departments that are switching. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll sell these guns back to a manufacturer. The manufacturer, as part of a trade-in program to get them a better deal on new guns, will sell these guns in batches. So if you can get a 226, 229 for under $500, I can't imagine that would be a bad investment. Now, I'm going to say most of these are in 40 cal. I'm not a big fan of 40 cal, so you got a couple options. You can reload and just reload it to the power of a 9mm and put a 9mm spring in it. You could do that. You could also buy a conversion barrel to 9mm if you wanted to do that, or you could get a conversion barrel to 357 SIG, or you could get both conversion barrels and you could have like an ultimate apocalypse gun. In fact, my Legion, my single action 226 that I have, I got that because I was looking for a good go-to carry gun that I could mount an optic on, and it was such a good deal that I could get it with two barrels. It came in 357 SIG, but it had a 40 barrel, and I could get a 9mm barrel made for it, and I could get it cut for an optic, and it was still a good deal. So I did. And I've had that gun a while, and I don't regret it. It's a fantastic gun. Again, I don't think for sub $500 you would regret having a 226, 229. 226 is a full size, 229 is the compact. But you just talk about a legendary combat handgun. And you're talking about getting a legendary combat duty handgun for under $500. So, yeah. Here is not a surplus gun. This is a brand new gun. And there's lots of budget handguns, and they're not on this list for a reason. Something I'm not going to put on the list, like the Gersons. Okay? I'm not saying they don't have a place. I'm not even saying they're crap guns. I'm not saying that I would consider them a good investment. If you want some Turkish copy of an actual battle-proven firearm because you just want to try it, like let's say you've always liked the Browning High Power. You don't plan on carrying one. You carry some other gun. You just have always liked the Browning High Power, and you want to get a Gerson or Gershon just to try it out, just to test drive it and see if you like the Browning High Power because you've always had one, or you want people to be able to try different guns, like you run a shooting range and you want to have an example of a cheap crap copy of a 1911 and a Browning High Power and something like that, then yeah, those Gershon Turkish copies, I'm not saying they shouldn't exist. I'm just saying I wouldn't call them a good investment. If you wanted to carry a Browning High Power, if you got one and you thought, yeah, I really like the Browning High Power, then I'm going to tell you, don't carry it. Don't even carry the Springfield. Get a good FN Browning High Power and maybe keep the Gerson for training. They don't make the list. But a gun that does is the SCCY, Sky, spelled SCCY. These are phenomenal guns. For the money, they're phenomenal guns. In fact, I think if they cost twice what they cost, they would be a good deal. I've had many of these. In fact, I've had these for like guns to get for my sister, for my mom. They're phenomenal guns. And you might think, well, the High Point. And I would say no, because the High Point carries like a brick. The High Point fails at the one thing that you would want a handgun for, the one thing that I think handguns are really good for, which is to have on you all the time. A High Point, let's say 9mm, it's a brick of a handgun. I don't know anybody that actually, outside of like Gangster's Paradise, I don't know anybody that carries a High Point, right? It's not that they don't work. It's not that they're unreliable. It's not even that they have horrible triggers. It's that they're huge and heavy. They are what they are. Dirt cheap, big, reliable handguns. But they fail. The one thing I really want a handgun for is to be able to carry it. The SCCY is a good usable size. The Sky handguns, they're 9mm, they're 10 round. They are, in my experience, really, really reliable. I mean, really reliable. They're very simple operating system, which is what makes them, I think, affordable. They're double action only, which is not a bad trigger. It is a heavy trigger, but it's a really good heavy trigger. It's a smooth double action. They are very reliable. They make models with and without a safety. I think they even make a striker fire now, but I'm talking about their cheaper double action onlys. And they're a good usable size, a good usable weight. They're not outside the realm of carryability. They're kind of in between. They're smaller, I think, than a Glock 19, but a little bit bigger than a Glock 26, if that gives you an idea. They're lightweight. I've carried them before as a carry gun, especially doing like really long cross-country stuff where I was really gonna beat up a gun and sweat on it and do nasty stuff with it. The Skies they're a really good gun. In fact, I trust them so much as a gun I got for my wife when she had a full-size handgun, but when she wanted to, I was encouraging her to carry a gun, and I trust them. They're a good, reliable handgun, and they're a carryable size, unlike a High Point, which just weighs far, far more. I think they're too big to be an actual carry gun. And I'm looking at base model right now, silver upper, black lower, $149.99. $149.99. And that's a wholesale price, but that is a good deal for a good carryable, reliable 9mm handgun. I can't imagine that in several years they won't cost more than that. Just if you think inflation is going to continue at its current rate, just the cost of materials, the cost of the steel, the cost of labor, I imagine they're going to be more expensive than that. I could be wrong. I don't see the future. Again, I don't see the future, but I can't imagine you would regret paying that for one of these guns and having it for a few years, and even if you wanted to sell it. And it's a good, let's say, backup to a carry gun. It's a good gun to loan a friend. Your friend's flying in, he's not bringing a gun because it's a pain in the butt, and he needs a gun to carry while he's where you're at. Here you go. As long as it's legal, of course. But here you go. Here's the Sky. 9mm, semi-auto. Now you're armed. You want a gun to teach on. You want a gun if you want to get into like teaching concealed carry classes. You want to buy, half a dozen of them. It's a good buy. It's a good gun for the money. And unlike the High Point, which is a good, reliable American-made gun, this is also a good, reliable American-made gun that's actually a carryable size, in my opinion. So again, really, really good. But don't worry, I put High Point on the list. The High Point carbine. High Point carbines, right? They're kind of known for being the budget thing, but unlike the handgun, you don't have to conceal them, so it doesn't really matter if they're a little bit heavy. Again, I'm not telling you to get rid of your AK and your AR and start running a High Point carbine on your chest rig, right? Start loading up, extended High Point magazines on your chest rig. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying for the money, they're hard to beat. And I think we've seen those incrementally go up in price over the years just because the cost of manufacturing, the cost of the material, the cost of steel. And these are really fun guns to shoot and train on. Again, if you want to train somebody, a High Point carbine in 9mm, it's a super fun, reliable, cheap gun to shoot. I can't imagine that. Now, you can mess up with any of these, right? You could buy one brand new and then turn around and want to sell it a day later. That's just like buying a new car. Like you buy a new car and you drive it off the lot, it loses a ton of money. But I can't imagine if you spend the money wisely and hold on to it for a while that you wouldn't have a pretty safe purchase in a high point carbine. Like you find one at a good used price on the used rack and you take it home and you run it because you just want to have fun and plink with it, and you turn around and sell it a couple years later. I got to imagine you'll do pretty well on that purchase if you don't do something foolishly. I would love to think that the price of guns and ammo is just going to drop dramatically in the next couple of years, but I wouldn't put money on that. I wouldn't predict it, right? I don't see the future, but think about that for yourself. What do you think guns are going to cost in a couple of years? I think high point carbines are one of those pretty good bets. A loaner gun. You got a nephew or a niece or something going off to college where it's legal. They're not living in a dorm or whatever. Like they live off campus. They have an apartment. They're trying to save money. Maybe it's not in the best area. You want to loan them a gun. High point carbine. It's not a bad option. You just want a truck gun or a gun in your spare vehicle. Let's say, you normally drive the truck and your wife normally drives the car, and you want a trunk gun in your wife's car. Just in case, not the car you normally take, but sometimes, and you just want a gun in the trunk. High point carbine. It's kind of a good, easy, safe choice, right? It's a good, practical gun. And here's another one. Now, I want to caution this because Turkey makes a lot of guns. Turkey makes a lot of really good guns. Turkey is an entire country. Be kind of like the analogy, does America make good rifle scopes? Well, there's a vast array of rifle optics that are American companies made to all kinds of various standards. Does Turkey make good guns? Yeah, they make some really good guns. But I don't think that everything that they make is a rock star of a gun. So be cautious with this. But one of the ones that they make, and they've made for a few years now, is the Hatfield shotguns. Single shot, break open single shot. I think the Hatfield ones, unless they change manufacturer or drop in their quality, you're talking a little over $100 gun for a break open single shot shotgun. I can't imagine them not being a good value. You can hunt anything in North America. It's a single shot, but I grew up hunting with a single shot. I grew up putting meat on the table with a single shot. Many people grew up putting meat on the table with a single shot shotgun. They're utilitarian, they're simple, they're affordable. Right, growing up again as a poor boy in the South, I didn't even have a rifle until I worked hard enough to buy one for myself. But, the gun that was given to me to hunt with was a break-open single-shot shotgun. The Hatfields, I think, are today's attainable, easy-to-get version of that. They sell them at Walmart. I might do a whole I've been thinking about this idea, maybe for Alpha Male Podcast, but how to do an area analysis on where you want to move to or where you want to live based on certain economic indicators. One of those would be, does the nearest Walmart sell firearms? Probably you want to be in a culture, an area where the Walmart sells firearms. That says a lot about politics and culture and things like that. But if your Walmart sells firearms, there's a good chance you might find, unless they've changed their policy, the Hatfield single-shot shotguns there for easy money. Very affordable. And if you want a good utilitarian hunting tool, let's say you're going out shotgun hunting and you have your good, whatever it is, Mossberg 500 or Benelli M2. You got a buddy coming. He wants to learn how to hunt ducks. Duck hunting is a pretty nasty environment. Maybe you let him loan him the Hatfield, right? Maybe you're going out on a day to hunt and it's just a nasty, miserable day. You just grab the Hatfield. I mean, it's $100 and some. When you get down, spray it with some decent lubricant, wipe it down, and you're good to go. Talking about the wife's vehicle's trunk gun, this is my wife's vehicle usually go-to trunk gun. I put it in her trunk, break open an array of shells, buckshot, slug, birdshot. If I take her car somewhere and I'm out and I'm like, this looks like a good hunting area. Wasn't planning on hunting that day, but hey, here we are. I got to break open a single shot shotgun. There's nothing in North America that I can't hunt with that. You think about the amount of utility and firepower that you get with a break open single shot shotgun, the reliability, the simplicity. They're also a takedown gun because they fold, right? There's a lot of utility there. And for $100 and something, again, I don't know that in a couple of years you're going to be able to get a good, reliable break open shotgun for $100 and something. Could be wrong, but it seems like a pretty good investment to me. And I say the Hatfield because they've been around several years. They're carried by Walmart. They're, I think, pretty good quality. Again, I can't say that for every Turkish shotgun, but those seem to be pretty good. You want to get into hunting? Buy a break open single shot shotgun like the Hatfield, buy an array of shells, and learn to hunt. Now, I would not consider that a great defensive shotgun. I would not consider it the best. It's a single shot. And again, I grew up hunting with single shot, but I think for a good all-around shotgun, you want repeatable firepower. And in America, that's generally a pump or semi-auto. Now, you can get cheap semi-autos, but they're generally not good. You can get good semi-autos that are generally not cheap. You can get good, cheap, or very affordable pump action. So that's where I'm going to go with this. The Maverick 88. It's like the budget version of the Mossberg 500. There are some subtle differences I'm not going to get into, different safety locations and stuff, but the Maverick 88 has been around a long time, and it has a stellar reputation. For the money that a Maverick 88 costs, and for what you get, again, even if it just goes up the price of the materials, they're a good buy. And when would you ever regret having a good, reliable, pump action 12 gauge or 20 gauge shotgun for that amount of money? I can't imagine that you would regret it. The Maverick 88 is a stellar shotgun. Going back to the Sky, if they cost twice as much, I still think they'd be a good buy. And they don't. So I think they're a really good buy. The Maverick 88 is a good shotgun. If you're not on a budget, like a really tight budget, I'd say your go-to fighting shotgun in 2023, if it's going to be a pump, should be a Mossberg 500 or 590. But if you want to back up or you are on a budget, the Maverick 88 is a phenomenal shotgun. And a really good, I think, gun purchase. Don't take food out of your kid's mouth to buy a gun, but you talk about a good, I think, investment in firearms. The Maverick 88 is a solid shotgun, and they're very affordable. The next one, Heritage Rough Rider 22 long rifle / 22 Magnum revolvers. You can get just the 22 long rifle versions. You can get the convertible cylinder, so you get 22 long rifle, 22 Magnum. I had one of these for a long time. I taught a lot of classes with it, a lot of youth classes with it. They're good little guns for the money. They have an extra benefit of not only are they a single action revolver, which is probably one of the safest, versions of a handgun, but they also have an added safety in addition to what most other single action revolvers have. They have like a flip up safety. And you can look at it if you're the instructor. You can look at the gun and tell whether the safety's on or not. That Heritage Rough Rider and 22 long rifle is a good good round. A lot of people think it's like the go-to survival apocalypse round. I tend to go the shotgun route, but it's a pretty heated debate between whether it's the shotgun or the 22. But the 22 long rifle is a great training round. It's a great small game round. It's a great round to stockpile because it's affordable. And the Heritage Rough Rider is a really good value in 22 handguns. Unlike a 22 semi-auto, which I like as well, but 22 is not known as being the most reliable of ammunitions. If you have a misfire with a revolver, you just cock the hammer again. If it's a single action, you just cock the hammer again, and it gets a new round in. So you could shoot some of what I would consider like the bottom of the barrel, like Remington Golden Bullet. And if you have a few misfires, no big deal. It's not a big deal. But Heritage Rough Rider, and now they're single action, so you got to cock the hammer every time. But you want talking about like a spare gun or a trunk gun. You want a trunk handgun. You want, like maybe a backup gun in your bug out bag. Like it's not your go-to fighting handgun, but you want to carry a 22 because you can carry quite a bit of ammo, a couple of 100 rounds. You want to be able to put it in your bag and not worry about, how much it costs or it getting rusty or something like that. And Heritage Rough Rider, really good value. And also you can get them with the convertible cylinder, so you can get it in 22 long rifle, 22 Magnum. They make all different kind of styles and variations and barrel lengths and all that, but the Heritage Rough Rider, I think it's a really, really good buy. You look at what you get and the utility of that firearm. I think it's a good purchase. Now, here is another one. And I think this is like the low point in the market. I don't think it's going to get any lower. Beretta 92. The 92F, the 92FS. If you can find these trade-ins, the quality of Beretta, I've said before, I think the Beretta 92, and a lot of people will scoff at this, but I think the Beretta 92 is the finest combat handgun, period, end of sentence. Not best concealed carry gun, not best competition gun, but best combat handgun. They're really good in a lot of ways. They're crazy accurate. They're very smooth shooting. If you get one that's not been totally abused, they're very reliable. I've seen these also for decent prices. And if you can find a good value on a good used trade-in, because again, right now everybody is, not everybody, but the vast majority of the market is polymer striker fire, plastic striker fire, plastic striker fire. They're cheap, they're easy, but perhaps a day will come, and I think we're already starting to see this, where the pendulum is swinging back and people are saying, well, that nice trigger pull of that hammer-fired gun was pretty nice. And you start seeing companies come out with new hammer-fired guns. I gotta imagine that, at least in my opinion, I think that the 92FS is very underappreciated right now. And I don't know that it's going to stay that way. So if you see a good deal on a good used Beretta 92, FS, Enox, I think that is just a fine handgun. So if you see a good deal on those, again, there was a time when a lot of agencies, this is a little bit farther back, but a lot of agencies, a lot of departments were issuing Beretta 92s because it was the military handgun, so it was a good, safe sell. It's a phenomenal handgun. So, again, I'm not telling you they're the best for concealed carry, but if you want a good combat fighting handgun, you want a good, I think, investment in handguns, it's a good one. They're just a fine gun. Beretta 92 is again, in my opinion, up to this point, probably the finest combat handgun. And a lot of people would disagree with that, and that's fine. You can have your own opinions on that. But as somebody that's carried one in war, I like the Beretta 92 for a combat handgun. So I think the Beretta 92, if you can get one at a good deal, like a good trade-in, a good used one, a lot of the used ones I see aren't shot much at all. So again, I think there's some really good deals out there in the Beretta 92. Another one, Colt 6920. Now these aren't cheap, but this is not a budget gun list. This is a good value. Colt 6920. If you don't know, and I've mentioned this, people ask what is the best on the market, I often say the Colt 6920. It's kind of what you think of when you think of a M4. Like the Colt 6920 is like the epitome of the Colt, the M4. And let's say there is another crazy gun thing that goes on, and these guns are going to be banned, and there's another crazy market thing, and you're trying to sell a firearm where it's legal, and you've got a bunch of ARs on the table, and people that aren't necessarily gun people, they don't live and breathe guns. They don't listen to Gunfighter Life. They don't go to training classes. They're not, in that world. And they see a bunch of ARs on the table. They see like an Anderson Arms. They see a Patriot Ordnance Factory. They see a Delton. And they see a Colt. A Colt, whatever. AR-15. Which one do you think they're going to value more? The Colt, right? Everybody knows the name Colt. Colt makes good guns. The Colt 6920 is, I think, the standard that all other ARs are measured against. You can arguably get a better AR, but I don't think for the money. I think the Colt 6920 is still a phenomenal gun, and I'm just looking at one right now for under $1,000. And you might say, well, I can get an AR for half of that. And again, I'm talking like wholesale prices. But you might think, I can get an AR for half that. And you can. Probably for less than half of that. But can you get a good one? The Colt 6920 is a good AR. I wouldn't hesitate to carry, and I have carried Colt, ARs, M16s, CAR 15s, whatever. They are legit military law enforcement grade. So if you can get a Colt 6920, that's a good AR. That's an AR that I wouldn't hesitate to carry on duty. I wouldn't hesitate to have that as my go-to AR. And I don't know how. I know Colts have been through some hard financial stuff, and I don't know the ins and outs of that, so I don't want to really comment on it. I hope that Colt does better and better and better, and I hope these are still around. But if they're not, they're going to be a great thing to have. And if they do continue to be around, again, I don't see the cost of materials and manufacturing going down. So a Colt 6920, if you've been looking at I want the one go-to AR, maybe I have a budget AR now, I want my go-to gun is going to be an AR. Like my go-to long rifle you're thinking of, your go-to carbine, it's going to be an AR-15. That's what you settle on, and you want a good one. It's really hard to beat a Colt 6920. It's a Colt. Colt, say what you want about them, but they make good quality stuff. They have good quality components. They are kind of the standard everything else is measured against. So I think a good buy, a Colt 6920. I don't even know how much longer they'll make the Colt 6920. And that's not like a scare tactic, like fear of missing out. I just think it's a good buy. Even if they continue to make them, again, I think price of materials. I just think it's a good, if you're looking for that market, I think it's a good purchase. And if somebody was asking me, like one of the patrons, for my recommendation for a good go-to fighting, not competition AR, not AR I think might work, but a good go-to, trust your life on fighting carbine, I recommend a Colt 6920. And I think, although they're not cheap, they're a good value. And that's going to bring us to the last gun on the list, and this is the gun that I aforementioned. When I was too young to legally buy guns, I'd have my mom buy me a gun, and I guess technically it would be her gun that I got to use at that point. But I can't remember if it's the first gun I bought with my own money, but it was one of them. I honestly can't remember. I bought a few when I started working. When we were talking way young, way younger than when I joined the Marine Corps at 17. But Ruger 1022. I got a stainless Ruger 1022, and if you can get stainless, in my opinion, almost always get stainless. But even that, they still make it, but just cost of manufacture and, the purchasing power of the dollar. I don't think that you're going to be able to walk into a store and buy a all-weather stainless steel 1022 for what I bought that one for 20 years ago. I think if you're looking for a good, solid investment, A 10/22 is a good, solid gun. A lot of people, even with all the options, even with the SCAR 17s and the ARs and the bullpup shotguns, which don't get me started on that. But a lot of people would pick this as their go-to apocalypse gun because they're reliable, they're well-known, they're, just a good rock-solid 22, and they want a 22 because they can carry lots of ammo. It's really the only gun where I could just be wearing a pair of pants with cargo pockets and bug out with 1,000 rounds. Now, I'm not telling you to bug out shirtless in cargo pants. That's not my apocalypse philosophy for you, to bug out shirtless in cargo pants with a 10/22. But the point is that you could carry 1,000 rounds in your cargo pockets. There's nothing really like that. The ability to stockpile ammo, the ability to get rapid follow-up shots, the ability to, carry that gun without a lot of weight. It's a good gun to have. I can't imagine, no matter how many guns you have, that you would ever regret having a 10/22. Going back to, you want to train somebody, even more so than the high point carbine. You want to train a new shooter, you want to get somebody into shooting. The Ruger 10/22 is just a phenomenal thing. Don't load up a full magazine right away. Load up one round or have them single load a round. They even make one round magazines. But give them a round at a time, teach them the fundamentals. They come with good iron sights, unlike a lot of guns today that don't come with iron sights at all. But you can buy it just like that and run it. You don't even need to put an optic on it. But if you want to, it comes with good optic mounting capability. Again, it's a 10/22. They're just, I think, a really, really good buy. And even if only the cost of material and manufacture and the purchasing power of the dollar, I don't imagine they're going to dramatically drop in price. So maybe you see one where there's a company running a sale on them. I think they're just a really good buy. So I think a lot of people in the gun world get funneled into like the Glock and black rifle kind of world. But and we mentioned some of those guns here today too, and I think people should have those guns. But if you got 5 Glocks and you're trying to decide between, do I get the Glock 43X or do I get the Glock 48, and you don't have a good shotgun and a good 22 rifle, maybe take a step back, take a deep breath, and think of what's going to give you the most bang for your buck. Literally, the most utility for the amount of money. It might be that Maverick 88 or that Ruger 10/22. Just a thought. You do what you want with your money. You're a grown person, hopefully listening to this, with your own budget, and hopefully you spend it responsibly. Buy whatever you want. But if you come here for advice and an opinion, hopefully you valued this one today. If you did and you want to become a patron, consider supporting on Patreon for the fraction of the cost of any of these guns, even the dirt cheapest one on the list. For a fraction of that cost, you can sign up and become a patron. Hopefully you'll consider doing so. They get some cool content. They got a Patreon only episode this morning. I'm going to upload this one, come out for the patrons way before it comes out to the general audience. A lot of times the longer shows like this one I'll put out for them first and without commercials. So if they're a patron, they can listen without commercials. Just one of the small perks on there. Also, we have a insider group chat, which is pretty cool. We're even talking about doing a video call tomorrow for the people that want to be a part of that. But just a few things going on Patreon. Anyway, there should be a Patreon link in the show notes, and that'll bring us to the tactical tip of the day. There's all kinds of things that went with the Cold War other than guns. One of the things I was telling my wife, we were out, I was actually very happy to go out with my wife yesterday scouting for bear and moose and things here in Alaska, and she wanted to go out with us, and we practiced our stalking skills, and we got pretty close to 3 deer. And we weren't hunting deer because I didn't read the regulations right. In the island that we're on, deer is not in right now, so it's in all around us, but I don't have a boat where I'm at, and we're on an island, so there's that. But had they been in, we could have killed several of them, God willing. And I was having her and I maneuver and stalk and get close to these animals until she could, if she had a rifle, get a shot. But just practicing that stalking ability, I had her track a moose into its bedding area, which was really cool. I forgot in our timeout, one thing we often like to do, and like on the way back, we didn't shoot any game, but like, why not forage for blueberries? This place is thick with blueberries, so why not pick some blueberries on the way back? Which brings me to the tactical tip. That's a long way of bringing up the tactical tip. There was a lot of other gear that went along with the Cold War that you can sometimes find for a good price. While we in the Cold War had things like MREs, some countries just issued bread. A lot of countries had bread bags, like the Eastern Bloc countries. These bread bags are really good, just simple haversacks. Well-made, durable haversacks. Probably you can get the surplus bread bags cheaper than you can get some new Gucci haversack. These are really good. I use them a lot when I'm out just hunting, especially for small game. You get that break open single shot shotgun like we talked about. You get a bread bag, you put some assorted shells in there, and then you shoot a grouse or a couple of doves. You throw it in the bread bag. You can wash them if you get some blood in them, no big deal. Then, different part of the season, you want to go out and forage for blueberries or desert primrose or agave or whatever is in your area that you like to forage and eat. You throw it in the bread bag, right? It's just a good thing to have in your kit if you're into survivaling, being a prepper, and actually being a prepper, not just buying stuff on Amazon, but actually going out and getting food in the wild. The bread bag is a good thing to have. So those bread bags, a really good tactical tip. Sometimes you can find some really good deals on those. Surplus store, eBay, whatever country they've massively gotten a big import of them on. But the bread bags, they're a good, useful, hopefully pretty affordable piece of kit. Anyway, that's your tactical tip of the day, your tactical verse of the day. How about from Mark? Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Take heed, watch, and pray, for you do not know when the time is. And it says several times after that, watch, watch, watch. Watch and be ready, men. Not because I say so, because Jesus says, watch. Oh, by the way, this is right after where it talks about the Great Tribulation in Matthew 13. So, yeah. Watch and be ready, men. Thanks, and have a blessed day.